Is perfectionism keeping you blocked, keeping you from achieving your dreams, keeping you from manifesting what you want? There's a very good chance it is, and you might not even know it. So today I'm talking all about perfectionism and how it is keeping you stuck instead of helping you. So if you want to find out more about perfectionism, then be sure to keep watching. What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen. I'm a spiritual life and business coach, and I'd love to welcome you today to this space. Whether this is your first time or your 50th time, welcome aboard. I am so happy to have you here. This is my special YouTube community where I create 2 new trainings for you every week, all about the art of up-leveling your life. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, then be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As I said, I am a spiritual life and business coach, and I do offer both life and business coaching. If you are interested in a belief reprogramming session where we go in and manage your mindset, then you can come over and check it out. I have a package for you up on the site right now, and I'm also accepting 2 spaces currently in my 6-month business coaching program. So if you're interested in either of those things, come on over and have a look on the site. So as I said, today we are talking about perfectionism, and specifically about how perfectionism might be blocking you from achieving your dreams, manifesting your desires, all of that kind of thing. So I know that that sounds a little bit crazy, and let's just dive right into it, what perfectionism is, first of all. So of course, we've all heard of perfectionism, and for a very long time I thought there's just no way that I'm a perfectionist, because I thought perfectionists were people that, you know, the overachievers, the people that only get straight A's, the people, you know, the go-getter kind of thing. And I kind of am that kind of person, but I'm also kind of not that person. So I've never really identified as a perfectionist. But it's actually super fascinating. After learning more about perfectionism, I can see how so many of us are actually affected by perfectionism. And so today I wanted to share a little bit about that, and specifically about how this might be keeping you blocked. So the way this usually works is that we are holding ourselves to a really high standard. Like, that's really what perfectionism comes down to. Like I said, I'm going to talk about a few different ways this can manifest. But what is really happening is that we are trying to control our world by controlling us. And really, this way of doing things, it never really actually accomplishes what we want it to. But I think the people that are stuck in perfectionist lines of thinking mostly feel like they have to hold themselves to this high of a standard, or they have to speak to themselves in their inner voice in a certain way, or they have to aim and do more and achieve more, etc. Because if they don't, then they're not going to get what they want. So I just want to point out at the start of this video that perfectionism is usually rooted in this sense of self-distrust, in not being able to trust yourself to just achieve the things you want without pushing yourself to this extra limit, without holding yourself to this crazy high standard. Again, usually perfectionism shoots us in the foot and gets exactly in the way of what we are trying to achieve. But we don't think that. We think that we're doing the right thing. Our ego brain believes it is doing its best to keep us in line, and that this is the only way that we can get through life. So I want to offer this to you right away, that there is another way of approaching achieving your goals, of creating the things that you want in life that isn't so punishing and so difficult. So of course, the first way that perfectionism can get in your way is because we end up holding ourselves to a standard that we will never be able to achieve. So we are human beings. We are imperfect human beings. We live in an imperfect world. We are born to imperfect parents. We fall in love with imperfect people. So it is really kind of crazy that we can maybe see the flaws in other people, but we hold ourselves to this sort of flawless, extremely high standard. So the first thing that I would do to combat perfectionism is to really just step into your ability to accept and love yourself just as you are, and especially as a work in progress, as somebody who is still going on to achieve things but isn't quite there yet. When it comes to the things that I talk about mostly on this channel, they usually have something to do with mindset or with manifestation, but I really like to talk about the self-love portion of it a lot, because otherwise, if we don't have that, it really doesn't matter what you're manifesting. It doesn't really matter what kind of life you're creating for yourself. If you can't love yourself and accept yourself the way you are, then getting the things that you want isn't going to help you to do that. We think it's going to, but it's actually a trap. Because I can guarantee you that right now you are probably living in the goal, ideal space that you wanted a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and you still don't feel like you are perfect. You still don't feel like you are worthy of happiness or love or whatever. And I just want to point out that that is a trap. It is an endless treadmill. You can keep going for the rest of your life aiming for these things and still never feeling like you're there, and that is a very miserable way to live. So I really want to point that out for everybody. Perfectionism is a trap that will ultimately keep you unhappy for forever instead of getting you to the happiness that you so desire. So we really need to step away from this perfectionist idea in order to allow ourselves to be happy now. Okay, the second way that perfectionism might be getting in your way when it comes to the law of attraction or just with normal, regular reality, if you are trying to follow the rules to the letter, if you're getting obsessed with the details, if you are putting more effort and energy into getting things right than into shifting your energy, then you have already lost the manifesting plot. The whole point of manifesting is an energetic shift. It's a mindset shift. So the way I teach it is changing your mindset to create an energetic shift, and that is when you create the things that you want. If you get caught up in the rules, if you get caught up in thinking, well, I have to do 20 minutes of meditation and 20 minutes of journaling and 20 minutes of visualization and doing this thing day in and day out, and then when you miss a day or when something goes wrong, then you berate yourself. You are not connecting with that energy that you want. You are not really changing your mindset. It's kind of like you're using the work that is the tools that are supposed to get you there as a way of punishing yourself. So again, this is a really common idea in perfectionism, the feeling that we need to punish ourselves right now or suffer right now because we are not who we want to be or we don't have what we want to have yet. So I really invite you, if this is resonating, to step away from that way of going through life, and again to remember that the whole process and the whole point is to change your energy and to allow yourself to be happy and to allow yourself to accept yourself. So it is not ever about following the rules blindly. It is not ever about having to show up in a perfect way. I think a lot of manifestation people think that. They think if they just become perfect, if they think perfect thoughts, then their life will become perfect. And again, there is no perfect, you guys. Even when you manifest the things that you really want, they come with their own sets of problems. We are problem-solving machines, however, and we will continue to solve problems as we move through life. But there is no space in your life where you are going to be able to not worry about something. And I'm not saying that to be negative. That is just the way it is. This is the game that we're playing. We are not here to just sit around and feel happy all the time. We are given these problems as gifts, as a way to up-level and to challenge ourselves to grow. This isn't about you doing perfect things so you can have a perfect life. And again, if this is resonating, I really invite you to dive into that and to start embracing the imperfection that's in your world. Maybe start thinking about the downsides of the things that you're manifesting, because that can be a really powerful tool, actually, especially in manifestation. Being okay with the problems, the new problems that you're creating. As the saying goes, new level, new devil. So there's always something coming your way. So maybe try playing with that and see if that changes how you feel. And that might invite in more space for that thing to actually come to you. Okay, the third thing that I wanted to talk about today in regards to perfectionism is rigid black and white thinking, or basically feeling like you need to do things in a certain way. And if you fail to meet your own standards, then you just give up and tell yourself you're going to start again tomorrow. So maybe not in a manifesting example, but this is super common when it comes to, say, a diet, for example. There are so many people out there who, are trying to change their health, and they're trying to, start this diet, and they adhere to the diet. It's all going well. And then one day, they're really hungry at 3 p.m. and they forgot to bring their snack, and so they find themselves in front of the vending machine at the office eating a chocolate bar. But instead of just accepting that incident for what it is, like a momentary bump in the road, a momentary, giving into your desires, then the rationale goes to the other way, right? So this is the rigid black or white thinking. It's like, if I messed up now, well, I'm just gonna eat what I want for the rest of the day, mess up my diet completely, and start again tomorrow. So this, of course, does not work, because usually when we give ourselves permission to give into that, we start to undo all the work that we've done in regards to a diet specifically. But it's also kind of thinking that we always have to be perfect, that we can only be perfect, or if we mess up, then we're bad and we might as well just give up entirely. So this might apply to your manifesting as well. So maybe you are trying to manifest something and you're trying to change your energy about it, and then you just have a really bad day and you think bad thoughts, you're really negative, you're just not in the vibe at all, and then you think like, I can't do this anymore because I had this one day, it's gonna mess it up. I just want to remind you that that is really our ego brain talking. Our ego loves to put things in either good or bad categories, but life is really full of a lot of gray space, and messing up, quote unquote, one thing, one time, one day even, is not the end of the world. So if this kind of thinking seems familiar to you, if you find yourself falling into this trap, I would really invite you to think more about that, think how you could reframe things, and give yourself, again, permission to be imperfect, permission to mess up. In fact, if you know that you are going to follow this diet for a long time, but you also anticipate that there's going to be days where you fall off the wagon, and that's okay. You don't have to start all over from scratch. That will probably serve you a lot better than thinking, I messed up, I'm gonna just, you know, fuck it for the rest of the day, eat whatever I want, and start again next week or something like that. So think about how you can reframe that. Allow yourself to mess up and just keep going. The whole end of the story is that you will get what you want if you just keep going, but it's up to you to do that. Okay, the next point that I wanted to talk about today with perfectionism is sort of this fantasy thinking that someday, oh fuck. So the next point that I wanted to talk about when it comes to perfectionism and being blocked by perfectionism is the someday line of thinking. So this is actually a super common mental trap that can super affect your manifesting. And this is really just buying into the idea that someday is going to be better than now. So we have actually been sort of socialized to think like this. Like when you think about, you know, fairy tales or something like that, when you watch when you were a child, we are always taught that, you know, when you do a bunch of things, then, you know, there's a happily ever after. And then it's always kind of implied that happily ever after means that there's no more conflict and no more pain and no more whatever. So I really, again, this isn't stuff that I just want to tell you just to be negative, but I do need to point out that someday, not only does it not ever exist, there's only the present moment, but someday just is never going to be the perfect fantasy that you want it to be. So the way this one specifically messes with your manifestation is I see this happening all the time with people who think, oh, when I get engaged or when I get married or when I find a boyfriend, then I'm going to feel good about myself. I'm going to feel loved. I'm never going to have conflict. Everything else is going to be great. And that isn't actually the case. We actually, if we're relying on someone else to complete us or fix us, of course, that also sets us up for the unfortunate fact that that person may not be there for forever. So it is always up to us to complete ourselves, to give ourselves the love and acceptance that we so crave. It's the same thing when it comes to money in your bank account or the job title or whatever it is. Like these things that we think are going to make us feel whole, the only thing that's really happening is that we are giving ourselves permission to feel whole, when in fact we could have felt whole and acceptable and lovable the whole entire time. The problem with this, with manifesting specifically, is that we tend to, you know, put so much importance on these things. So for example, somebody who's trying to manifest a boyfriend that has this crazy fantasy about, when I find this person, they're going to understand me completely. Our relationship is going to go smoothly all the time. I'm going to feel good about myself all the time. I'm actually going to lose weight, like all these things. What you're really doing is putting your wish or putting your manifestation intention on this super high pedestal. You are making it mean so much more than it should mean, or it actually will mean. You are making it seem like when you get the boyfriend, like your life is going to be perfect. And again, that is just not the case. So in this instance, you are literally distancing yourself from what you want because you're putting so much pressure on this one thing to do all the work, all the spiritual work. It is always up to you to do the spiritual work. It is not up to someone to come along and fix you. It is not up for this job to make you feel whole. It is always your job to make you feel whole and loved and all the things. So if this is resonating with you, or if you're buying into some weird perfectionist fantasy about love, about money, about whatever it is, I really, again, remind you to come back to reality. I'm not telling you not to go after those things. But actually, if you go after those things with a more level head and take things off the pedestal and make them a matter of, you know, my life is amazing, but I have this extra thing which makes it a little bit juicier and a little bit more fun. Like, that's the kind of energy you want. You never want to have to prove yourself, prove your lovability by being given something. That is just setting yourself up for disaster. Also, if you put yourself on that energetic level of already having it, you become more magnetic. So the higher the pedestal, the bigger the fantasy, the farther away it goes, and the longer it's going to take for you to get there. So this really does serve you to bring it back down into the real world. Okay, the last symptom of perfectionism that I wanted to talk about today, this is the one that snuck up on me. I'd actually never heard of this one for the longest time, but now looking back at my life, especially during my 20s, I can see that this is exactly what was happening to me. So this form of perfectionism means you have these idealistic fantasies for life, or how your job should go, or how your career should go, or how things should go. And then when life does not turn out to be the way you thought it was going to be, or when, in other words, when you encounter a bump on the road, instead of picking yourself up and trying again and taking it in stride, you make it mean something about you, and therefore you stop going after the things that you want, because you're telling yourself that it's too hard, or that you don't care, or, you know, some other story about I can't. So this form of perfectionism, it looks a little different than the other ones, but really what this is coming back to is this idea that life needs to be a certain way, and that because it isn't a certain way, we're just going to give up. So it comes again back to that black and white thinking, sort of the same idea as following the diet and then messing up and then, you know, eating whatever you want for the rest of the day. But this is the same kind of feeling, but on a bigger scale. Pretending that you don't want the things that you want, or giving up after a certain amount of time because it didn't match with your timeline, or with the way you thought things should go, or with the energy output you thought you would put out. Really, you're just doing yourself a disservice. So don't feel bad. Like I said, I can definitely see times in my past where this applied to me. I had no idea that this was a form of perfectionism, but now I can see that. Now I can see that I was holding myself to this really high standard in life, and that when life didn't meet my standard, I just pretended I didn't care. But what I want to say to you, if this one is resonating, I want to remind you that and from my perspective, our desires are part of our soul purpose. They're part of our map for being here. These are the spiritual assignments we're being given, which means that if you have a desire for something, and I mean like a deep desire, not like a fleeting momentary thing, if you want to open a business, if you want to have a child, if you want to study a certain thing, if you want to go abroad, whatever the thing is that your soul is telling you to do, this is part of your path. This is part of your spiritual assignment. You're not going to know the whole variables from where you are right now. The whole point is that we have to go out there and create it, and come up against obstacles, expand ourselves as a human, learn lesson after lesson after lesson. It is only up to us to take the first step, and we need to say yes to our desires, acknowledge our desires first, say yes to our desires, and pursue our desires. That is what we are here to do. That is part of the path. So if you're opting out of things because you feel like they're too hard, or you feel like you're not good enough, or you feel like, you know, something in life disappointed you, I just want to remind you of this. I want to remind you that this is all part of your journey. It is up to you to keep going. It is up to you to explore these things. It is up to you to take care of yourself and live this life, this precious human life that we've been given, to the very best of your abilities while you are here. So please don't waste the gift. Please go out there and do the things you're wanting to do. And remember that even if the journey doesn't quite match up with the way you thought it was going to be, that doesn't mean anything has gone wrong. That is definitely just a bump in the road, unless you let it be a stop sign. So please don't stop. Please keep going. Please keep adjusting. Please keep moving forward towards becoming the person that you were always meant to be. So that was kind of a long video today, but thank you so much for watching. Remember, perfectionism is a block. It is something many of us suffer from, but there is always a way for you to reframe this. And if you need a little extra help, to do some subconscious reprogramming so that you can really get beyond this. Because like I mentioned in the video, some of these ideas are not ours. Some of these ideas have been programmed into us from TV, from our parents, from the world around us. So don't hate yourself for having perfectionism. It's a common thing, but also understanding what it is, understanding what it's doing, and understanding that it's holding you back is so important, because that way you can start to heal it, reprogram it, and start to get on with the very important business of creating your best life. So that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I have a free, amazing manifestation planner for you over on the site. If you want to grab yours, then come on over and get it. I will leave a link for that below. If you guys like this, give it a like. Other than that, I'll see you guys back in the next one. So until then, as always, just remember, get ready for the miracle.